good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains, episode 1021 for August 11th, 2025. What a day today. Very busy day. We have launched a new statewide weather network. It's been a great day. And now we're going to launch WeatherBrains, the weekly show for weather geeks, dweebs, nerds, dorks, and weenies. And this is the pre-show. You know the deal. The pre-show's back. I told you August 11th. We'd be back on a pre-show here. This is the part of the show where we do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time we say outrageous things. Yeah, so we have launched a new thing. We've done something new. It's been kind of a big day. We have been working on this for well over a year, and we are in the home of the Alabama Weather Network, and in an undisclosed, beautiful studio location where we are going to try and take the best of the old, what I've done for 47 years, and the best of the new, and merge it into something special. And we had a good launch day today. And thankfully, the weather is quiet. But if there's ever really any high-impact weather for any county in the entire state, we go live, and we stay live. And we've got the people and the resources to do it right. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to try and make this thing work and make it fly. And if we can, I think it's a great example to take it to other places. But there are so many underserved parts of the United States, really. And quite frankly, most of those underserved areas, they're rural areas away from cities. And local TV stations do okay for the big cities, but a lot of stations, the minute it gets out in the country, out in the boondocks, they're just not there. And some of the DMAs are so large for some of the larger markets, they just don't really handle the fringe counties that well. And it doesn't matter where you live. If you're in Alabama, that's the theme here. We've got your back. We have your back. If you live way out in the country, in the middle of the largest city, middle of Birmingham, we've got you. And a good kickoff today. We've got just an incredible staff here. I promise this will not be a Alabama Weather Network commercial here, but it was just and it's been busy. A lot of things are going on, and it's very busy, but it's a good kind of busy. School year starting back. So anyway, it was great to have the day past us now. But it's great. So there's so many thank yous. I don't want to start thanking people because I will inevitably forget somebody. But to anybody that has worked on this, and you know who you are, thank you. We've had challenging moments. Anytime you start a business involving tech and weather, you know things can go wrong. And you fight through those and you just keep going. And again, we are very happy to be in the place we are and the future. And people all the time are saying, are you just getting started? Yeah, man, I'm not going to retire anytime soon. And I want to thank Sinclair Broadcast Group. I understand I'm still with the ABC TV affiliate here, and they have been marvelous to work with. To be successful in a changing world, you have to innovate your way to success. And they have worked with us to make this happen. I'm still the chief meteorologist for ABC 3340 in Birmingham. But at the same time, I'm the chief meteorologist of the Alabama Weather Network, and I think the two entities can help each other in a really big way. And we'll still do our severe weather coverage on the ABC channel here, like always. But once we get out of the television market, we'll take care of everybody else. And that's the one thing we're telling people. It doesn't matter, nothing about TV markets, National Weather Service, jurisdictions, none of that stuff matters. Just know we've got your back. Because so many people are worried, well, I'm in this TV market, or I'm that TV market, or am I covered by this weather service office or that one? And it gets so confusing. So that's the deal. All right, so we are at 6:56. And let's start bringing people in here. I really don't have anything obnoxious to say. And again, the pre-show is where we typically do the outrageous things and all that. But it's been a very, very good day today. Kind of a long day, but a good day. And obviously, this is a different setting. For the past 6 weeks, I've been doing the show at home in the home studio. But tonight this is Studio B of the Alabama Weather Network. Good old, I've overtaken Studio B. All right. Trey, can you hear us? Are
I
you
can hear
there?
you loud and clear.
5 by 9. And nobody even knows what 5 by 9 means anymore. It's an old ham radio thing. So I guarantee you somebody watching this, they know 5 by 9. Gabriel, how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, James, how you doing?
I'm very blessed. Uh, it's been a good day. All of our regulars, the last 6 weeks, I was not able to start the stream until the top of the hour, so they're used to that. So they're hopping in as we speak now. And I know that Bill Murray is going to be on the show because I think Bill Murray is actually in Studio A down the hall. I've claimed B. I let Bill Murray take Studio A. And there's the legendary John Gordon. If I only was half as good as this guy.
Hi,
When it
guys.
comes
Hey,
to
James.
Hey,
understanding
John, nice to meet you.
science, the
Nice to see
people.
you
This
guys.
guy's a legend.
James
Um,
Spann, I am so happy for you today. I said a prayer for you this morning that the screens would not
Thank
go
you.
dark or something weird would happen to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. We trust me. You know, in any tech setting, that can happen very easily. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anything can go wrong. But it was a good day. The flaws were minor, and I don't think most people even noticed them. And the other thing I'm thankful for is the fact that we don't have a major hurricane down here in the Gulf. That was the other concern when you launched this thing on August 11th, where we happen to be. That is the greatest concern. And it's, we've got Aaron, but that's good. It gives you something interesting to talk about, and it's a long way away, and there's nothing immediately in the backyard down here. There is a little trough down there, but again, it's been a very good day. And sometimes dreams do come true, John, with hard work and vision and the right people and the right work ethic and everything. And the dreams really do come true. And
All the
I tell
things
people,
that we talk about, all the things you and I talk about,
yeah,
all the things you and
yes,
I talk
yeah,
about
yes,
at college
yes.
campuses, everything you talk about is your whole vision. Everything.
Yes, you got it. You understand it. I think I understand it, and it's just my wish for all those college kids we see. That my wish for them is that they can wake up and every single day love what they do. They just can't wait to go to work. They can't wait to get in there and work with the people around them and tell a weather story or do research, whatever part of the science they're in. And for 47 years, I've had that. I just can't wait to go to work. And how cool is that? That's my wish for everybody is that they find their passion in life at a young age and they're able to follow that academically or whatever they need to do to be successful. And just very exciting. So let's see. Bill, are you over there in Studio A? Hello. Let me get my tin can and string here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Studio
can
A?
you hear me, James?
Studio A. Studio A. This is Studio B calling.
Yes, Studio
No, we
Studio B. This is Studio A. I hear you loud and clear.
I'm sorry. Our guests are going to hang up on us. All right.
I
I
would
think we're all
recommend that.
here.
We're gonna turn the
Yeah.
lights out here in a minute, so I won't look like I'm in some sort of Searchlight Creek thing here or something, or Clique thing,
Yeah.
I guess would be the
Somebody
right
here
word.
comes Drew. Drew. Wait. Drew,
Yeah,
get over here. Hang
yeah,
on.
yeah.
This is
Drew
Drew
left here and
McCombs.
went over there.
You recognize this man, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, we're going to kill his lights. Drew is our lighting. He is a meteorologist slash electrical engineer slash lighting expert. So he's going to come over here and dim all the lights, in the words of Donna Summer.
There you go.
Jen, so
There you go.
Jen,
That's a good
Jen, where are
reference.
you calling from? This is going to be fun with Jen because we're never going to know her location. You talk
Yeah.
about an undisclosed location. It's going to be fun to keep up with her.
That's right. Where in the world is Jennifer Naramore? We're gonna have to. I'm still in
Yeah.
Ohio. I'm actually in my living room slash studio slash bedroom. I moved everything into one room, so I'm getting
Okay.
closer to nomadness.
Okay, Bill, how you doing over there?
Yeah, yeah. Tell Drew thank you. My lighting situation got a
Yeah.
lot better.
Okay. Very nice. All right, let's get this thing started before our guests hang up on us here. All right. So here we go. Track number 1, track number 2. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains.
they're kind of a big deal.
That's what Bill Curtis says. WeatherBrains, the weekly show for weather geeks, dweebs, nerds, dorks, weenies. Episode number 1021 for the 11th of August, 2025. Dog days of summer cruising along here, and school has started for a lot of students. In fact, I'm doing my first school program of the 2025-26 school year tomorrow morning. So that's kind of exciting. So James ate a lot. Are your kids back in school? What's the status there?
No, this is they start back a week from tomorrow. They've been doing sports and dance and pom and all that stuff all summer. So they probably look to school as a welcome break from the routine.
I totally understand that. Some kids are busier in the summer than they are during the school year. How's the weather in Tulsa?
It is rainy. We've had very much hit or miss thunderstorms. Some spots have probably picked up 4 or 5 inches of rain, and some spots nearly nothing. So I still have power at my house, so that's good.
That is good. So let's go down to Kim Cloco McLean. You got rain there, Kim?
We do. For a while, we were wondering if we would, because there's a lot of outflow that surged out ahead of these really promising looking storms. And I just knew, we're so excited. It's like the excitement is inversely proportional to your odds. But eventually we did get graced by the presence of at least some of the rain, and it was very appreciated. And my kids, I've got a couple that are starting school this week, and they are so excited. My middle is now going to be in school with my oldest. So she graduated from her pre-K and is going to, second year pre-K, but at a different school. And yeah, they're having a really exciting week. I remember that when you're like really excited for school to start. That's this age, this like perfect little age.
That's cool. Of course, the parents are excited in many cases for school to start back. But this is how old I am. So, and I look back on, in fact, I'll just tell the story real quick. I didn't go to kindergarten. People my age, they didn't go to kindergarten. I just started first grade. And this is how old I am. I will give my age, and I don't care. I feel great. I mean, I feel good. But I started first grade in the fall of 1962, October of 1962. Who's an historian here? What global event happened in October 1962?
The Cuban Missile Crisis.
I was going to say Cuban Missile Crisis. Yep.
Yes. So we were these little first graders coming in, and literally the second day they were teaching us how to get under our little wooden desks if nuclear missiles were coming in. I mean, I never thought I'd live to be 18 years old. And me and my friends, we weren't the smartest people in that class, but we're thinking, what good is this going to do? Let's review this. A nuclear warhead is coming in, and you want us to get into some little wooden desk? I mean, we made an agreement. Me and all my friends, we were going to go out there on the playground and watch the end of the world with a front row seat. We were going to melt down like men. Now, Troy, you weren't even alive in October of 62, were you?
I was very much alive then. I remember very little of that, much like yesterday. I was the same thing. They tell us we're all going to disintegrate, but it'd be best if you're on your desk when it happened. Just never quite understood that completely. So,
no. It made no sense whatsoever. But people think times are strange now. You should have lived in the 1960s. Okay, I mean there was some really strange things going on back then. And I tell people all the time, I never thought I'd live to be 18 because we had that, and then soon after that, the high school boys started going to Vietnam, and some of those kids weren't coming back, and it's just like. Those were some pretty interesting times back in then. John Gordon, you were not alive in 1962. John was born in 1978, right?
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a 65 model. I'm not afraid to tell you that. And I've not been to Cuba either, but I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. So I'll just say this for weather-wise. Do you know today is the last day of the dog days of summer, the Serious Dogster, August 11th? Fall is coming soon, James Spann. It's not far away.
Ooh, I can just hear footballs flying. In fact, we were looking at one of our cameras today with the new thing we have here. We have one on the highest mountain in the state of Alabama, which is, for some, it's just a hill. For those in Colorado, it's 2,400 feet, 2,407. It was 71 degrees up there at midday, 71. So yeah, I do agree. Fall is clearly coming. All right, let's see. We got. I know that Rick Smith is out, but but Jen is here. Jen, tell us what's going on here. You are living the most exciting life of anybody on this show right now.
It is exciting. It has been a little stressful, but even when you know you're doing the right thing, it's very stressful selling a house. But my house did sell, so now I'm in that contract, waiting mode. Everything was very, very busy, but now things have really pushed forward, and so I think by the end of the month I should be possibly home free, and and then just moving. I'm going to start heading south. So my goal is I've got my tickets for NWA, so I'll be there September 6th through the 10th, which is very exciting. I'm my first time ever going, so I will be in Huntsville for about 12 days, and then I'm heading to Birmingham after that. And then after that, I'm going to go to Florida. And let's just see what happens in October in Florida. But that is my plan so far. But it's been great. Just excited to do this whole nomad thing and see what happens with the history and creating this memorial and what have you. I just have had just so much amazing support and prayers for this and all that. So it's been really great.
Awesome. And we'll hear more about that later. But Bill Murray, let's bring in our guests before they hang up on us.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. I was saying goodbye to Drew. But James, we have, before I get started with our guest WeatherBrains tonight, we have a very special friend of the show and a very special friend of mine and a very special friend of Dr. Kim Clocko McLean. So I'm going to let her introduce Sandy LaCourte tonight. Dr. McLean, please take it away.
Oh, sure. Well, I am so excited to have Sandy LaCourte on the show tonight. Sandy comes to us from the Weather Program Office as her day job, but what she is here to discuss with us today is the National Weather Association meeting, as we were just saying, and several of us are going to be there. Very exciting. Sandy is helping to organize some special sessions at the conference this year. And Sandy, I'll just give you the floor. First, well, where are you reporting in from? Because you can cover a little bit of geography we did not cover in our introduction. How's your weather? And then tell us a little bit about what you want to discuss with NWA.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So I'm calling in from Davidson, North Carolina, just north of Charlotte. And if you look at radar, there's a big hole around Charlotte. There's rain everywhere else, but we did get some good rainfall earlier. The garden is happy, but we've had kind of a crazy summer, had a stretch of record high temperatures in Charlotte with the heat. And even before that had a lot of rainfall. So it's been a little crazy, but I think it's been crazy everywhere. And of course, now all eyes are turning to the tropics as things begin to heat up. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to be talking about the National Weather Association annual meeting coming up in Huntsville. Being in Huntsville is kind of special to me. I got introduced to NWA when I was a grad student at UA Huntsville. So I'm really excited to be going back. And I think my first NWA conference is where I got to meet Bill. And we did the Weather Fest and did Tornadoes in a Bottle. So it's going to be a great time. But I'm here to talk about the student conference, which will take place on Sunday. So if any of you all are in town on Sunday, want to stop by, please do. The student and early career session will be, I think, from like 9:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the evening. We'll be overlapping the same day as the broadcast workshop. So we have a lot of great things in store. Do want to say registration is open. Unfortunately, this year we will not have a virtual component, but if you're able to join us in person, we'd love you to join us, any students and early career folks listening. So we're going to have some guest speakers. We're going to have a resume workshop. We are going to have a panel discussion with the Weather Enterprise. We're really excited about that. We'll also be having the ever so famous speed mentoring in the evening. That will be wrapping up the day. During the lunchtime, there will be an opportunity for any students who want to go into broadcast or meteorology, that there will be a reel swap. So if you're a student that's coming and this is something you're interested in, please bring your reels. I will say for the resume workshop, we want you to bring your resumes. Let's look at them. Let's go through them. Let's have some folks well into their career help you with your resumes. So we're really excited about that. Trying to think what else. Oh, we are going to talk about, we're going to have some guest speakers. And then there's also going to be a talk about uncertainty and finding your passion and keeping in mind your passion through uncertain times. I will actually be giving that talk. And I don't mean to put John Gordon on the spot, but the first time I met John Gordon back at AMS, he spoke at a student conference and he almost showed me that it was okay to show your passion through your work. That's one of the things I first remember. And it's funny, a couple years ago, my program manager at the time, who has since retired, he sent me a clip, and it was a meteorologist in charge speaking at a news conference from the Kentucky tornadoes. And he's like, wow, this person is so passionate about what they do and why they do it. And I was like, that's John Gordon. That's John Gordon. So we're going to be talking about uncertainty. We're gonna talk about it. There's no need to not talk about it. We're gonna talk about our passions, why we do what we do. Of course, we love the weather. Who doesn't, really? Let's be honest. But we all have the passion to help people as well. And we have to remember that, especially through uncertainty and in challenging times. The floods in Texas, Helene, Harvey, Florence, the super tornado outbreak in April 2011. I just left grad school. I just started the outbreak was my first day at the Wilmington, North Carolina Weather Forecast Office. So it's time to talk about it. And I know a lot of students are a little anxious, a little worried. So the committee and I, we've been meeting for the past several months, and we're really excited. We're really excited to bring the students here, the early career folks, and we hope you can join us. So I will stop there.
Oh, that's wonderful, Sandy. That is so great. Before you said that there was going to be that bit about navigating uncertainty, I was going to ask, I'm sure that your committee has been thinking about trying to help students in this particularly challenging time of transitions in our field. And I'm so glad that you're doing that. I'm so glad that it's you. You have, so much wisdom and experience to offer here. And John, I want to give you a second here to respond. I saw you pop back on. What does, you just shine enthusiasm. I got to see John Gordon when I was an undergrad, and he came to visit at Purdue and give a talk. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's okay for me to be a total nerd because this guy is really successful at it. So John, how does it feel knowing that your leadership style is just like exuberance?
Well, it makes me very happy. Sandy and you and a lot of you guys are much smarter than me and better looking and work really hard. Go ahead, James A. No, I really believe me and Span believe the same thing. Invest in others, pay it forward, open up opportunities. I despise bureaucracy and people who try to thwart innovation from young people. I despise it, James Span.
Oh man, it drives me crazy, I love this generation coming up, and they need to be encouraged. They need to be given the tools and resources they need to be successful. And when you follow your passion in life, everything will fall into place, and amazing things happen. So. I love this. I love a good student conference. They make us happy. They really do.
And one more thing about the student conference. I said we're going to have a weather enterprise panel. I want students to know this isn't just for forecasting. This isn't just for broadcast. This emergency management, social scientists. Heck, if you're going to grad school, one thing about grad school, if you think, you want to take the course of being a professor, or if you want to go into research, how are you going to know what research to do if you don't understand the rest of the weather enterprise? How are you going to know what's important to that forecaster who's sitting on radar? What if you can come up, go through the research that's going to help improve that weather forecasting tool or the observational data or something? So I came across a student who was like, well, I think I want to go to grad school, so I'm not sure NWA is for me. Nope, it's for you. This is a great way to network and to really understand the weather enterprise as a whole. So I highly encourage any students, early career folks that are able to join us, please do. If you can't join us this year, please join NWA. We've actually been brainstorming a bit after the conference, how to stay engaged with the student and early career community throughout the year. We're in the early talks of that, but we're hoping to find some ways to be engaged throughout the year and not just at the annual meeting. So there you go.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Sandy, so much for that preview. Thanks for letting us know everything that is to come at NWA. Everybody should join us there.
Absolutely. And thank you, Kim, and Sandy. Thank you so much. The student events at NWA are so rewarding for us. Most of us are introverts, and we have to really work at, getting out of our shell. And so putting us in those environments where we, have to interact is a great thing. John Gordon is great at getting us out of our shells. So, but it is always fun to be in those speed mentoring events and things like that, because we have lots to share and encourage the students. Troy Kimmel, you're always an advocate of this.
Yep.
Make sure that you come up to the professionals. These are not folks that are unreachable. These are folks that want to talk to you. If you're a student and you're there, you've invested time and money to come there. Please take advantage of the opportunity, right, Troy?
Absolutely. Good place. And I'm really looking forward to Huntsville this year. Really, really, absolutely looking forward to it, Sandy and all. So really good opportunity, and it should be not only informative, but I'll be honest with you, it'll be also a lot of fun for you as well, to get to meet people and network.
Networking is so critical.
Yep.
and important to you as you're embarking on your career. Amazing things will happen. And as Dr. Kim Clocko McLean says, a bunch of shrinking violets and shrieking violets sometimes are we, us meteorologists. But thank you so much for making this segment happen, Kim and Sandy. Thank you.
I think Bill, you actually referred to Kim and I as introverts, and I'm figuring what generation was that way back, because
well,
part of our
maybe
family,
not
right?
y'all, but
okay,
certainly me. I certainly fall.
I know, but you're right in a way, and especially, I mean, Sandy, students are sort of that way in a sense. I mean, they come in and they feel intimidated, maybe to some degree, to come to the meetings, and I'm telling you, the NWA is not a place for that. There are people that'll talk your head off until 2 weeks after the meeting's over with. And that's what you really want to do. And just get in there and meet people. I don't know if we have business cards anymore, but I like those days, and I still carry plenty of them with me. And, just meet people and talk to people and go from there. You'll love it.
And a great tip too, if you have a QR code for your LinkedIn, print it off and put it in your name tag.
Sandy, what's a QR code? Never mind.
I was like, whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, one of our networking breaks, we planned it where we will go to break when the broadcasters do. So that'll be a great chance for folks to interact with them as well. And Jen, looking forward to meeting you, and I hope you have a great time.
Thank you. Looking forward to meeting you. And I just want to say I'm nervous, and I'm not a student. So hopefully that brings comfort to the students who are listening right now. I get nervous too. I am very introverted, especially in events like this. And I've never been to the NWA, so it's a little intimidating. I've already been texting with James Aladot, who's going to hold my hand. It's like, when you walk your child into school for the first time, and he's going to make sure I'm feeling okay when I walk in. But, come talk to me. I love the students. I love the young people, and just be able to talk to them about tornado history and about broadcasting, radio broadcasting. But we'll help each other as you all come to the NWA.
And join us. We're going to be dancing the chorus line in the hotel lobby.
Okay, that I did not know.
That'll be late at night. Yeah.
All right, Kim, you had something really important to say, I thought, and then we'll wrap up with John Gordon.
Oh, sure. Well, I know that I don't carry myself this way now, so you would never believe it. But I was painfully shy. Like, I wasn't just a little bit shy. I was painfully shy when I was younger. And it took until high school for me to even just start breaking out of my shell. And so if you're out there and that's you, just know that you've got a whole life ahead of you. And something that's great about this field, one of the reasons that I appreciate it is that I'm seen for my whole self here, the way that I want to care for the world and the love I have of science and all of that. I honestly, the most accepted I felt in life started to happen in grad school. And there's just that while I'm naturally an extrovert, it took a long time for me to actually know that, because it took me a while to feel comfortable with people, and it's something that evolves through your whole life. So if you're a student who's sitting there thinking, I don't know if I can do this, it's hard. I've been there. So many of us have. Just put yourself with people and you're going to be surprised. Just going to the conference, everyone, the excitement carries you, the joy, the camaraderie, they happen, and almost more richly when you're honestly an introvert coming in. I think it's something really special.
And
I was just going to.
John, please join in.
Okay, I was just going to say this. So for the students, if you're listening to the Great Weather Brains, you bring your resume to Huntsville. Don't hang out with your friends in your hotel room. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
Go visit James Spann, Jim Cantori. Go visit Troy Kimmel. Bring your LinkedIn QR codes. And Sandy, I'll make an offer to you. If you want me to make a little video for your student conference to get students to come, I will make you a video that will entice them to come.
I will be in touch. Absolutely. Thank you.
And that is an offer you cannot refuse, Sandy, right there. So thank you all. And Sandy, you're welcome to stay and be a part of the show tonight. Or if you have other things you need to do, we understand. So you let us know whether you want to stick around or whether you need to knock off early.
I will stick around for a little bit, but may have to drop off after a while. But thanks again, everyone.
That's great. So it's awesome. And it'll be great to see you in Huntsville. But I'll introduce our guest weather brains tonight. Our first guest weather brain is a meteorologist and veteran storm chaser who has documented tornadoes, hurricanes, and supercells across the United States since 2015. He has degrees from Arizona State University and the University of Oklahoma, where he operated a mobile radar under tornado research pioneer, Dr. Howie Bluestein. Trey Greenwood, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having us.
It's so exciting to have you here. We've never been able to get Dr. Bluestein on the show.
He's one I hope you do get on sometime. He has some pretty incredible stories from back in the day.
Well, maybe some of our Oklahoma friends and you could provide some influence, because
sure.
I think his exact response to me was, why would I want to do that?
I'll put in a good word.
And I can't say that I blame him, but anyway, it would be a lot of fun to have him on here tonight.
Yeah.
It's really fun to have you here. Thank you. And our second guest weather brain is a professional broadcaster, CEO of Stormchaser Coaching, hosting over 200 episodes of the Chaser Chat podcast since 2020. He leads the company's mission to centralize storm chasing education through structured courses and a long-term membership model, connecting learners with experienced coaches. Gabriel Harbor, thank you. My eyes are so fogged over after a very long day. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's great to be here, Bill, and no worries. It's no worse than any of my school teachers did when I was younger. So
no, I love slightly unique spellings of names, and that's a beautiful one there. But thank you very much. My eyes really are about fogged over, so it's been a very fun day. But my wife was giving me a haircut at 4:45 this morning. Now that's nothing new for James Spann, not the haircut part, but the 4:45 thing. I was nervously checking my phone at 4:45 while I was getting my haircut to see if he was sending any texts. But that's kind of how our days have gone lately. So Trey, your fascination started early. Talk about that early spark and how it grew into a full blown career for you.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what the first entrance I had into meteorology was, but I remember back in 1999, I watched a 48-hour special with Dan Rather on the May 3rd, 99 outbreak. And after that, I was hooked. I was doing severe weather coverage for my parents in my boxer shorts in our living room, pretending to be Gary England. And then we lived. I'm originally from the desert Southwest. I'm actually in Phoenix right now, visiting my parents. And so I got to a front row seat to the monsoon season out here, and I would always step outside when there was a thunderstorm nearby. And then started into storm chasing. I watched Reed Timmer on Storm Chasers, and I thought, oh wow, you can actually go out and actually chase these storms. That's pretty cool. So I first started going out in 2011 with my dad, just locally here in the valley during the monsoon season, and then took my first trip to the plains in 2015. I always knew I wanted to do something in meteorology, severe weather in particular, when I grew up. So I just did as much as I could in high school to prep for college. Went to Arizona State, got my bachelor's there, and got my master's at OU. And I was able to fulfill a childhood dream at OU, working for Howie Bluestein. I always ask my parents, can you buy me a radar truck for my birthday? And they always said no, but I thankfully got to fulfill that dream by during my master's research with Howie. So that was awesome. And then here we are. I've just been chasing and documenting storms ever since.
Trey,
Trey,
I never
Some
heard that
kids were
story
asking for a
about.
horse, and we were asking for radar trucks.
I was just going to say, Trey, I never heard about you giving the weather reports in your boxers, but I'm really appreciative that you wear pants now when we work together. So
yes, I knew we had to step up, be a little bit more professional with age. So yeah, we wear pants now. Yes.
Okay.
hey Trey, we're wondering if you would wear pants and say intro your video for us the way you always do. The hey everybody, Trey here.
Hey everybody, Trey here.
There you go. We'll have to get him to cut a recording for us for the show.
Sure.
He and Bill Curtis, James A. They'll be right there on par with each other.
Really funny story about the hey everybody Trey here. So being the CEO, a lot of the content that we make, I'll send Trey a script for things that we need done, just promos and things like that. And I got it wrong when we first started working together. So I actually sent him hey everyone. And I've noticed over time that because he just exceeds me in many categories, writing and English being one of them, he takes my scripts and he'll make small changes. But I realized after that first time when I sent him, hey, everyone, Trey here, he had changed it very subtly. He didn't say anything to me to, hey, everybody, Trey here. And that's kind of when I knew that I was dealing with somebody who was definitely on a different level than myself.
That's too funny. That is awesome. So, Gabriel, how did your background in broadcasting evolve into storm chasing and eventually into the Stormchaser coaching?
Yeah, so my background is not nearly as interesting as Trey's. I was a sports broadcaster, actually daily fantasy sports in particular, for many years. If you remember back when DraftKings and FanDuel first started coming out, when sports betting actually wasn't even legal in the US except for a few specific places. And I just had a passion for talking, I guess would be the best way to put it. So I started up a live radio show that sort of morphed into a podcast. And then over time, I just started talking about lots of other stuff and kind of morphed into a type of a career. And I eventually got out of the sports broadcasting industry. I'd always been a fan of storms. Whenever any sort of severe weather would come around the Columbus, Ohio area, I would go out and just take a peek. I knew what a hook echo was, but nothing really significant beyond that. And then when the pandemic hit, I was just sitting at home with nothing to do and actually hired a couple of professional storm chasers. I won't say their names because I don't want people to inundate them with emails asking if they'll teach them as well. But I basically said, take my money and do some Zoom calls with me. And they were gracious enough to accept. And they started teaching me some stuff, recommended some textbooks and everything. And then I realized that the quickest way for me to actually gain experience and learn how to forecast and chase storms would be to just start a podcast and use the guise of interviewing people as a way of asking all the questions that I wanted to know. So I started up a podcast, and Trey was one of my victims early on, and we developed a friendship from there. And Then a couple of years later, we started talking about turning storm chasing content into this, like I think you, Bill, put it very eloquently, centralized model of education rather than all these different pieces of content that are sort of dispersed throughout YouTube and on forums and places like that. And so we got together second half of 2024, started talking about this company, and then we kind of soft launched it at the beginning of 2025, and now happy to say that things are humming along. So it's a really exciting opportunity, and I wouldn't want to be working with anyone other than Trey. He's the person who I had in mind from the moment that I had this idea, and it's just been absolutely amazing getting a chance to kind of see his process behind the scenes.
So Gabriel, Dr. Kim Coco McLean and I in the chat are beginning to believe that you found us out. That's sort of our modus operandi here on the show. At least for me, James and I were talking in the studio today. 19 years we've been doing the show, and I have learned so much through these interviews. And I wanted Kim to say earlier something she had said in the chat too. She had said that each friend she's made is a treasure, and each person that I've gotten to meet, and talk to on this show has become a treasure to me. I had no idea, early on, James Spann, when we invited Jack Williams to be on this show very early on. I think he was one of the first interviews that I got, and it just kind of grew from there. And every week we have amazing people like, the three folks we have on tonight. We've had Sandy before, but it's our first chance to get to talk to Trey and to Gabriel. We never run out of fabulous material. It's incredible, and we learn something every week. So thank you for sharing that, and for and for letting folks know what our secret is there. But after recording over 200 Chaser Chat episodes, talk about some of the most important things that you learned from your subjects.
If I had to pick out one lesson that I've learned, just not only from Chaser Chat, but just interviewing people in particular, is every single person on planet Earth is far more interesting than they think they are. And all it takes is asking a couple of questions, actively listening, and then just directing the conversation ever so slightly towards an area that they're passionate about. Sandy really just piggybacking off of what you were talking about earlier. And people will open up and give you the most amazing stories. They'll talk with you for an hour, 90 minutes if you let them. And I think that's been the coolest part about doing Chaser Chat, is interviewing everybody from Trey to Aaron J. Jack to Cameron Nixon, and then people no one here has ever heard of if I were to give you their names right now, because maybe they have 35 followers on Twitter. But somebody just catches my eye on social media and I'm like, oh, that person's funny, or they keep tweeting things that I think are really cool. And I invite them to be on the show and I get the most amazing stories out of it. And like you were saying, Bill, develop friendships for a lifetime. These are people that 20 years from now, I can be out at a random pilot station in Nebraska and I'll come across them and we'll be able to chat like we were old friends. So it's just been a really rewarding experience all the way around.
That is fantastic. So Trey, talk about your very first tornado chase and what it was like and what were your big takeaways from it?
Very first tornado chase would have been in 2015. That was my first trip out to the plains, still living back in Arizona. So it was a chasecation. We were taking 2 to 3 weeks out in the plains. And it started off pretty slowly. There wasn't a ton of action. We kind of came out right after a big stretch, and before a big stretch, we were right in kind of a lull between two active stretches. But then my first real experience with a tornadic supercell was on May 24th, 2015. It was in southeast Colorado, southwest Kansas at night. During the day was a beautiful storm in southeast Colorado, really epic shelf cloud. And we were all happy. We thought, hey, that's a great chase. Let's go to the hotel. Then we saw this storm firing up well to our southwest near the town of Liberal, Kansas. And we're like, it's not going to do anything. This is back when, I wasn't super well versed in how things can ramp up significantly at night. So we were like, let's just watch it, but let's go to the hotel. 30 minutes later, one of our chaser friends was on that storm, and I asked him. It started to get a nice little hook echo on it, and I asked him, "What are you seeing? You see anything good?" And he said, "Yes, big wedge tornado on the ground." And I'm like, "Okay, great." So we hauled butt east to get in front of that storm and did one of the maneuvers that I'm not super proud of. We went east and dropped south in front of the storm. So we put ourselves directly in the path of the tornado, and it was a pretty large tornado at that. So also one of the scary things about that was it was in fog. We were driving south, cut in front of the tornado. It was all foggy. Couldn't see a single thing. And then we popped out and we eventually were able to get south of the tornado and we saw it from a distance and it produced a couple other tornadoes there. But that was my first real introduction to chasing tornadoes and to have a supercell like that at night with limited visibility like that and to pull that kind of maneuver, I'm definitely not proud of it. And it's something that we'll talk about down the road in Stormchaser Coaching as far as safety goes. And that's an example I'll use for sure. But definitely learning that you don't have to be that. I kept getting messages, are you okay? Are you guys okay? People were scared for us because they saw our spotter dot going south in front of the couplet. But that's one of the lessons I learned early on. It's not worth your life. No storm is worth your life. It's all about trying to be safe out there, especially at night. So that was kind of my first introduction. And then a few days later, we saw the big Canadian Texas supercell during the day, thankfully. And that was kind of my first real photogenic tornadoes that I saw.
And Trey, talk about working with Dr. Bluestein for a moment.
Yeah, that was one of my one of the highlights of my life so far. I had a VHS tape when I was little, a National Geographic film called Cyclone, and the first half was about tornadoes, and the second half was about hurricanes. And I, of course, wore that tape out. And it chronicled Dr. Bluestein. He had, in the old days, this was chronicling the 1991 season when you had the big April 26th event in Kansas and stuff like that. And he was, not with the radar on the back of the truck, but actually pulling the dish on a tripod out of the back of a van and setting it up. It was him. It was that era of mobile radar chasing. And so I wore that tape out. I always looked up to Howie. He was always, on my Mount Rushmore of tornado science pioneers. So I always respected him. And then, when I was looking into grad school, I looked at OU, of course, and was able to visit OU before making my decision. And I saw that Howie had an opening, and so I just emailed him. I said, "Hey, I'll do anything you want, but I want to work for you." And he said, "You might have to be a teaching assistant first, but we'll have a spot for you eventually." And I was able to start with him chasing in Raxpole right away. And Howie's just such a smart man. He can derive an equation off of the top of his head, half asleep. He's that kind of guy. And so I learned a lot from him, and chasing with him was just incredible. All the stories he shared about his intercepts back in the day. And one of my best memories was the Selden, Kansas tornado on May 24th, 2021. We actually are coming out with a few papers on that day. Now, he said it was his best intercept since the Dodge City Day in 2016. So I'm definitely proud of that, to have been part of that chase with Howie, one of his top chases of all time. So it was really awesome. Definitely a childhood dream come true, and I definitely miss working with Howie today.
Do you have a funny story? I think he probably was a source of amazing funny stories along the way, because he seems like an interesting gentleman.
He definitely is an interesting fellow. One of the funny things about Howie is he's originally from the Worcester, Massachusetts area. So he used to have a real thick Boston accent. And since he's been in Oklahoma for a few decades now, he has lost that accent for the most part. But whenever we were at the end of a long chase day at night and he was tired, that accent would start slipping out. He'd speak normally, like we have, that tornado came very close to the car. He'd slip out one little word here or there with his Boston accent. So that was always fun. But no, he had so many different stories about his chases back in the day. One interesting one was that the big May 3rd, 1999 F5 day in central Oklahoma, they all actually almost didn't chase that day. He was sitting in his office, and they thought, there's too much cirrus ongoing. Didn't think there was going to be enough surface heating to get storms, and so they actually had written off that day. But eventually they saw the storm go up, and they raced down southwest and got some great data from that. So there are so many stories. We could have a whole podcast about just Howie's stories. Like I said, he'd be an awesome guest. So I'll try to work my magic, see if he'll come on and tell some of those stories for you.
All right, I've got to hear out of the peanut gallery here because some folks have been in the front row of his classes. I'm going to start with Dr. Cloco McLean and talk about being in Howie's classes.
I just did a forecasting class that he led for us grad students. It was like a 1 credit hour thing, but still, I was grateful to survive it. I was so terrified, but he was genuinely kind, and he was just encouraging. And I don't know, James ate a lot. I guess you also took a similar kind of class. I had come from my program at Purdue. We didn't really do a lot of forecasting, in undergrad, especially. I think that's pretty common for meteorology curricula, which is something we should probably address. But I came in really wanting to do some, and I thought, oh, I have this chance to do something with Howie Bluestein. I've got to do this. And I learned a lot. He was very generous. James, what was your experience?
It was my senior year at OU, and it was again 1 hour, and you did the midday lunchtime weather briefing in the map room once every 2 weeks, I think was the rotation. And I was always terrified because he sat in the front table, unpacked his lunch out of his paper bag, and sat there and ate. But thankfully, I wasn't first, so I could catch up on things that he saw that he would trigger, like anybody would say overrunning. That was an immediate penalty flag, because you're describing a kinematic process and you should use a more dynamic process. Maybe isentropic lift explains the kinematics of it a little bit better. But he was very gentle. I had put in chat that it was a similar terror of having Chuck Doswell sit on the front row of something, but much gentler, but still very much got his point across.
Yeah, Howie, he was of course intimidating when I first started. I'm like, it's Howie Bluestein. I mean, one of the absolute pioneers of tornado science research. But I found out that he was an awesome advisor. He was very hands off. He would say, "You do it on your time frame, but if you ever have questions, email me, and I'll be right back. I'll get right back to you." And he kept his word. Anytime I had a question, he would email me right back within a couple hours time. And he was a great advisor, and I learned a lot from him. Even just from the thesis writing process, I learned so much from him. So he was definitely an influential person in my meteorological journey, for sure.
All right. I feel like the reason that he may not have come on the show is I may have been mispronouncing his name the whole time. So y'all correct me. Am I saying it wrong or am I saying it right? Who's the definitive person here to tell me when I say Howie Bluestein? Am I saying it correct or incorrect?
I believe it's Bluestein. Yes.
Okay, good.
Correct.
All right, just make sure, because I thought I may be saying it incorrectly, and that would be terrible. All right, Gabriel, talk to me for a minute about Stormchaser Coaching. How did it come to be? What was the aha moment that sparked it for you? And I want to dig into it for a little bit, because you've got a special offer too for our folks, and I think you want to share that in a minute. So don't let me forget that. But dig into that for a moment. How did it come to be?
So, as I'm sure all of you are very well aware, the public interest in the weather has been absolutely through the roof in the last few years. Shows like yours, Stormfront Freaks, you've got Ryan Hall, Max Velocity, a lot of these people who are streaming, and then you've got how many storm chasers that are streaming while they're actually out on the road. So there's this accessibility for people who want to learn about the weather, who are curious about the weather, that wasn't necessarily there before. You don't have to just plug into a broadcast on a television network. You can actually have it on your phone, take it with you. You can find your favorite personality and connect with them. And one of the things Trey and I had both noticed is that storm chasing is the logical conclusion that the people who get super interested in weather generally end up at, because what is more cool than learning about the weather than going out and actually experiencing it? And there is a lot of awesome material available out there on YouTube, the old Storm Track forums, and everywhere in between. But it's little pieces that are segmented across many different places. And so if you're trying to put together a comprehensive education, somebody who doesn't have a background in meteorology, you didn't take any classes in school, you've never read a textbook, and you want to learn everything kind of from the ground up, but from a storm chasing perspective, what do I need to actually be safe and have a chance at being successful? That's really what Stormchaser Coaching is all about. And so when I talked to Trey about this, what we decided we would do is we would start with the foundational level courses for the first year or so, which is what we're going through right now. We've got, of course, like your just storm chasing foundations, moisture, shear, instability, lift, that sort of thing. Then we've got radar foundations. Trey's working on satellite foundations right now. We had Kyle Gillette, really awesome guy, do the weather model foundations, forecast models. And we also just released hurricane chasing foundations. So people, obviously, hurricane season coming up, are going to be super interested in that. And we just want to give people an option to educate themselves so that they can be safe and, like I said, have the chance of going out and seeing something really special so that they have a fighter's chance when they get out in the field. And I'll say this one last thing about it. I think that one of the most surprising things we've learned in the last 6 months that we've been doing this is that there are a lot more people who like to learn about this stuff than we had originally thought. And the closest analogy I can draw is to baseball. People are absolutely obsessed with baseball statistics. You got spin rates, exit velocity, all these different metrics that try to quantify how valuable a player is for the team. And a lot of these people, like myself, are going to be sitting on the couch, and I'm never going to be out there swinging a baseball bat again. But I'm still really interested in learning about all the mechanics behind how it works so that when I actually watch it take place on television, I have an insider knowledge, and it makes it that much more enjoyable. And so that's really what we're slowly beginning to realize, is that we thought maybe the market for this was confined to people who were just going to go out and storm chase. But we're starting to realize, like, we've got subscribers in the UK who, all they could really go out and do is chase gray skies. We have subscribers in Holland. We have subscribers in Australia, which of course they can chase those wacky supercells out there as well. But the road network and the outback and the radar systems and stuff aren't quite as nice as they are here in the US. But all of that to say, if you're listening to this right now and you think to yourself, I don't know if I'd ever want to go out and storm chase. Well, first of all, maybe you would. You'd feel a little more confident if you actually had the education. But also, even if you don't want to storm chase, this stuff is really interesting. And I guarantee you, if you're watching or listening to this podcast, then you would absolutely be the kind of person who would be enriched by this type of content next time you go out and just watch a storm on your front porch, or you're watching an event unfold and James Spann is covering it on radar, that sort of thing.
Yeah, bucket of spilled paint, right, James Spann? So
exactly, yeah.
I need to know, how do I access it? How do I get to it? Is there a website? Is it an app? How do I get what am I going to find when I get to it? Because back in the early 2000s, it occurred to me that I wanted to do this, and I spent so much time in some of the resources that you talked about, Storm Track and the forums, downloading storm chase accounts and parsing them to get information, and then going out with the famous Gene Roden a couple of times and seeing a bunch of tornadoes on 2 different days. I think that he basically tolerated me because I had won that XM delivered satellite radar at the National Storm Chaser Conference. And once Tim Samaras handed me that radar, I suddenly had a lot of new friends that day, because, we were tired of, I think they were tired of sitting in Days Inn parking lots and swiping internet. And so suddenly we had this really cool tool. And we took that tool and we saw my first tornado at Petrolia, Texas. I think it was on April 30th, 2004. And then a month later, I believe it was May 29th,
Mhm.
2004,
Mhm.
Harper and Sumner County, Kansas. We saw 11 tornadoes over the course of a late afternoon on a storm that looked like it was nothing. But Gene believed that it was going to get into deeper moisture, and he said, we can head home to Norman and get a good steak, or we can hope this thing, turns out to be something. And it turned out to be a photogenic beast. It was producing 2 and 3 tornadoes at a time, and it was an experience that sort of scratched that itch for me. I've never, I don't say that I'll never do it again, but yeah, I loved it so much, and I got such a feel of it that it was like, okay, I've checked that off. And if I never did it again, that was such a day. I was like, that was the Super Bowl of chasing. But I felt like everything I had taught myself over 2 or 3 years, everything I had learned came to fruition in those 2 events. But it was a lot of work, and you're making it easier for folks. So talk about how they access it.
First of all, that was a really cool story, and I think that you definitely should get back out there, Bill.
I'm definitely going to do that if James will let me out of the studio ever. But that would be a lot of fun. We'll get out on the plains, maybe avoid the Chaser convergence at some point, and do that next late spring and summer probably.
Yeah, I know we have the Stormfront Freaks annual storm chasing trip, so I'll be looking out for the WeatherBrains one coming up here soon. See all you guys out on the road. So yeah, to access it, you just have to go to stormchasercoaching.com. There's a big button in the middle of the page. There's also a link at the top. It just says Academy in the menu at the top, or the right-hand corner if you're on mobile. And you just click the button to sign up. It goes to a Stripe checkout page. So the special discount that we have for folks that you were alluding to earlier, which, by the way, just want to apologize. My light keeps going out, so I keep rotating back and forth between my phone light. That's why it's like I'm oscillating in and out of darkness. I promise you, this is not the norm. So anyways, once you guys go to the checkout page, you can use promo code BRAINS, and that's going to give you 50% off your first month. Just make sure you enter that promo code. It'll show you the 50% off when you do. And if I could, Bill, just expand a little bit and share with people what they can expect when they get inside. There are the aforementioned training modules, so radar foundations, hurricane chasing foundations, that sort of thing. But we also do these things called Chase and Explains, which I'll use Trey as an example. Trey will, 3 or 4 days out before a storm chasing opportunity, of course, be looking at the mid-range models, deciding if the setup actually looks worth going out and chasing. And in these Chase and Explain episodes, he's actually recording his screen, giving his thoughts about what he thinks the setup is going to do, whether it's worth chasing. And then as you get closer to the day of, he continues to hone in. He shares with the subscribers his process. And then on the day of course, he is actually out on the road. He's talking about targeting, the techniques that he uses for identifying storm structure. All of this, of course, with video. He's taking pictures of the storms. He's taking pictures of his screen, talking about surface observations. And then afterwards, whether it was a successful chase or not, he does a debriefing session talking about what went right, what went wrong, how he might learn from the opportunity. And one of the things we like to say at Stormchaser Coaching is there is no such thing as a bust, because with all of our chasers, the educational experience, regardless of whether or not they actually bag a tornado or not, is the whole point. And we're hoping that by bringing that, the training modules to people in conjunction with the Chase and Explain episodes that show them what it's like out in the field and how to actually apply those things, will give people sort of the whole package and help them go from a person who's just watched the movie Twisters or watched a Ryan Hall stream or listened to a WeatherBrains podcast into somebody who actually feels confident in being able to give it a go out on the road. And the last thing I want to highlight is we do have monthly Q&A sessions as well. So if you get in there and you find yourself overwhelmed, or there's one particular topic that's just sort of a sticking point for you and you can't quite figure it out, There are multiple ways that you can leave your questions. And then once a month, Trey and all of our other coaches, depending on if it's one of their areas of expertise, they will be the ones who answer those questions for you. And then you'll have that to watch as well. So it's a very interactive experience. And we try to encompass everything from the education to out in the field to questions that people have all in one package.
So Trey, how do you add safety training into this? Because that's obviously an important part of the process.
Yeah, that's one of our big goals here coming up, especially with this foundational type content. Of course, you've got the weather stuff, the radar, the satellite, the weather maps, but this is one of the things that makes Stormchaser Coaching unique is that all of the content is tailored to people who want to get into storm chasing or improve how they storm chase, and a big part of that is safety. So we have modules on the docket coming up. One of them, for example, is storm chasing navigation, how to navigate safely in different types of environments around different types of storms, high precipitation storms, low precipitation storms. Where's the best places to view the hazards from, the tornadoes from, what safety tips, safety protocols should you use in certain situations. That's going to be coming up soon. We have several others on the docket as well. So it's not just severe weather education. Big part of Storm Chaser Coaching is to actually teach folks how to storm chase safely. So we do have several modules on that coming up in the next, by the end of this year, we have maybe one in the storm chasing navigation, but beyond that, we have several on the docket.
Okay, this is John. I have a question for both you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Capucci, I've probably said his name wrong. He wrote a very interesting article in 2019. He said the name of the article was Mobs Are Ruining Storm Chasing. He outlined point by point by point about blatant disregard for traffic laws, the Weather Channel contractors who killed some storm chasers running a red light, people driving a 90 miles on the road. So in storm chasing, or is this dirty little thing nobody wants to talk about?
You were breaking up there a little bit. Could you repeat the question again?
My internet, it's the Kentucky aliens. So is this
Show
this
title.
dirty little yeah. Is this like years ago storm chasing when I'm really old, me and Span we saw Grover Cleveland when he was there. But anyway, what does anybody talk about etiquette on driving, not going 90 miles an hour in the left lane, blowing through stop signs? Matthew wrote a very interesting article. Have either of you read it?
Yes, I have.
I have.
And
Any,
that is
any comments
yeah.
you'd like to make?
Well, it is a huge problem these days. And one of the pieces of content we have out now is a free piece of content that people can pick up is our 8 rules to storm chasing safely. That's just an ebook that we have. It's not super in-depth content, but it's just 8 rules, 8 steps you can take to chase safely. For example, how to properly pick a target, and how to, if you're out there, we mentioned things like pulling all the way off the road. Don't open your doors in the middle of the road. Obey all speed limits. Be mindful of your surroundings at all times. Have escape options. Stuff like that. That is in that ebook. So that is one piece of content we already have out to cover that. But it is, like you said, it's a huge problem these days. And Storm Chaser Convergence is not just a one-off type thing where you see it maybe on the moderate risks every year. It's every setup now. Doesn't matter if it's in, Montana in July or Oklahoma in May. You're going to see a lot of chasers out there. So that's one of the driving forces behind Storm Chaser Coaching, really, is to teach, especially this newer generation who maybe saw twisters and wants to get out there, or they just enjoy weather and maybe just want to try it. This Storm Chaser Coaching will be a great option for them because we're focused heavily on the safety side of things. And as someone who has chased for over a decade now, I see it all the time. And chaser convergence is something you have to deal with. And you always see, it seems like every chase now, there's some type of drama with somebody running a stop sign or doing some type of bad behavior out there. So we want to try to allow this new generation of chasers coming up to be able to start off chasing safely and not start off as kind of a chicken with their head cut off and just thinking they can do whatever they want to do.
Hey, Trey, it seems like, and Kim can jump in here too, that when people are making decisions that they're going to do something that from our perspective looks really foolish or idiotic even, that they have a greater goal in mind for making that decision than just the safety at that one moment. They think, okay, but if I do this, I'm going to get an amazing shot, or I'm going to be even closer. And there are a lot of people that would never make some of those choices that they're making out there, except when they're out there. Does that make any sense? I'm not sure it
Mhm.
does, but
That makes
It
a lot
does.
of sense. And I think, unfortunately, these days with storm chasing, it's driven a lot more by competition, trying to get the best shot better than everybody else, rather than just being out there for the love of storms. And I think every chaser kind of falls into that trap at some point. And there are some who do it really well and do the monetizing their brand, and they do it safely. There are several people out there who do it well, but there are others who just don't do it well, and it's more fueled, I think, by competition for trying to get the best shot, trying to get the most viewers, trying to get the most clicks, rather than just being out there for the love of weather and letting, if you have, interest in monetization, letting the followers come to you. And I've always said, let your work do the talking. I get a lot of younger chasers who ask me, what I want to start a YouTube channel. How do I get into storm chasing and getting my name out there? I just say, let your work do the talking. Don't, and that's where being well versed in smart, safe storm chasing comes in. If you start off by that with those safety concepts in mind, and you know the meteorology and stuff, you're going to get good tornado intercepts. You're going to get good footage, and that footage on a consistent basis, and those kind of things are going to give you the viewership, rather than trying to make some stupid maneuver with on the roads and almost causing a pileup or something just to get the best kind of shot. And I think it's unfortunately what plagues storm chasing today. And I wish we could go back to a couple decades ago when it was just you're out there for the love of the weather. You want to see tornadoes, and that's something that I have tried to find with my storm chasing in the last few years. Just try to be out there and enjoy it. Not have my face in the camera, not try to get the best shot. Just enjoy it.
it's a quick follow up, and we'll let Sandy jump in because she had an amazing comment. It's an odd scarcity mentality that it's a zero sum game. For me to get this shot, you don't get the shot. There's plenty of tornado to go around.
Right, exactly. You're exactly right. Yeah, and there will always be other tornadoes after that. So the motto it's said all the time, but it's so important. So important. One tornado is not worth your life. So if you're out of position and you got to go 110 miles an hour to get there, just don't do it. You're going to have other storms. Yeah, you're going to miss one. It's going to sting, and other people are going to get the shot this time. But it's especially after what's gone on the last few years with the proliferation of storm chasers on the road, the incidents that have happened. Storm chasing safety is the need for storm chasing safety is at an all-time high, and unfortunately, it's people still seem to struggle with that.
All right, Sandy, were you going to jump in?
Oh, sorry. I just put in the chat, I have a big rule when I go storm chasing. I was on Vortex 2 back in grad school. I went to undergrad at UNC Asheville. We didn't have a storm chasing program, so I went with Virginia Tech for a few years, and have been just kind of on our own as students. And around here, I don't recommend chasing in North Carolina. Just putting that out there. But my big rule is if I can't get there safely, and if I'm not obeying the law, then it's my fault for not getting myself in the right position for that storm. That's it. I love storm chasing. I also was a forecaster for 12 years. I've issued tornado warnings. So I wear different hats when it comes to me getting excited about storms. If I'm out there, I try to let the Weather Service know the report because ground truth is so important. But also, when I'm in the forecast chair, I'm sitting here thinking people's lives are at danger. So I have kind of a 360 view of storm chasing. But when I'm out, that is my rule. If I cannot get there safely, oh well, someone's going to get the shot. Someone's already there. It's just not worth it. It's just not. And like you said, I call it the storm chaser circus. There's a lot going on. There was even a time we were on a storm chase and we got stuck on the dirt road because everyone else was leaving, and we got hit with the rear flank downdraft. The other van thought we were goners. They had no clue. And I know it's fascinating, but you have to be careful when it comes to Mother Nature. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that you all are teaching the safety part. It's beyond important. So.
I think one of the things as well that has allowed storm chasing in particular to sort of fly, I don't know if under the radar is the right term, but maybe be given a special pass is, and I'm not calling out anyone in particular, okay, so this isn't meant to be a soundbite or anything, but I think there's a lot of, we'll say, liberal narration when people are out storm chasing. I'm doing this to save lives. I'm doing this for the science. There are sure some people who do that. I'm not going to deny that at all. But I look at it more like something like rock climbing or surfing out in the ocean, right? These are activities that people love to do. They're hobbies. People are going to do them. You're not going to stop people from climbing rocks or surfing on the ocean or, racing dirt bikes or any of that other stuff that could be considered dangerous. So I think it's good to just come out and be honest with the reason most of us do it, because we think tornadoes are awesome. We think storms are awesome. We want to be out there and experiencing the power of nature, the beauty of nature. And we also have to blend that with a respect for the other people that are around us, because unlike rock climbing or surfing out in the ocean or anything else that we could use as an example, there is there is a public who is not participating in the thing that we're doing. So we always have to keep that in mind, whether it's parking on someone's property and tearing up their yard or their field or whatever with tire tracks, or just remembering that there might be some soccer mom who's on her way home from a sports event with her kids who has no idea what the weather forecast is, but all of a sudden the wind just picked up and there are crazy clouds and she's scared and she's not sure if she's going to get home in time. It's just, so I really do think step one is sort of peeling back that tendency to couch storm chasing in this, I don't want to say like an unwarranted heroism for the most part. Sure, there are people that do awesome things after the fact, but if we all just admitted first and foremost that we're there to have a good time, I think it would be a lot easier maybe for people to embrace some better safety measures when they're out on the road.
Gabe, it's a really interesting point, and I'll add on to that. I do see one interesting altruistic motive for chasing, but it's not what people say it is. I think you're right in that it's not like saving lives right then. You're not giving the broadcast the angle that's going to make the difference to the decision maker, not in the current media environment where we're saturated with that stuff, especially. But there is something I've seen where you become a much better forecaster if operational forecasting is what you want to do. You become much better at it if you know what the environment looks like and you've corroborated that against your remote observations like radar data, satellite data, and so on. I've seen very skilled forecasters come from very, skillful chasing. So when you're out there with that eye to obtaining information about the science, it translates. It does. I've used it some as a more risk communication centered professional in our field for helping people to understand what environments are like, to try to, because people are trying to reason actively about the environment they're in. So in that sense, it's a little bit like, to use your analogy, a rock climber going out there and learning about it so they can advise people of avalanches, like they know rocks and they know cliff faces. And so they can put it into practice later. But because of that, you don't have to be right under the storm to understand that. So there's a lot of room here. We don't have to compete in the moment to get the skills that we need to go do those things to help people that we want to do. So many people they have that motive. They want to go and help people. And it's a wonderful motivation. Let's all just take a deep breath and recognize it doesn't have to be right this minute that help, shows itself. We are training in those moments, and there's a variety of places around the storm. There's a lot of tornadoes. There's a lot of vantage points. You can get that expertise in a lot of ways. The question I have for you guys is, You give a lot of different pointers in your, about how to chase, and I love that because there's a lot of gatekeeping in our community. So anything you can do to try to help people reason through it is actually a really tough thing to do well and to do safely, especially. That's so great. What, if anything, have you said about respecting those local people? So we're chasing through a lot of rural America for the most part. Sometimes it's in cities, but there's always people around. And like you said, Gabe, there could be people who are like moms taking their kids from soccer practice. I have felt bad, especially chasing in more recent years, being part of a mob where, oh my gosh, I might be keeping that mother from getting home with her kid. Like, how do we think about our presence, this increasingly heavy footprint on these local communities? I don't know if you guys have experiences about that or anything you teach about that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's something we run into all the time. Even if it's just at a gas station, folks who are locals see this mass of chaser vehicles out there, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on today? Should I be worried?" And then you have all this information out there that's on the hype side of things, I'll say, and so it drums up unneeded, unnecessary panic from these local folks. So I think that's going to be something we're going to focus on as well in that storm chasing navigation module. I think that's another thing, as far as just being respectful of people's property, being respectful on the roads of locals. If you're in a city, especially, don't be stupid. Don't go running red lights and all that stuff. All that safety stuff is a huge portion of the navigation type of thing. And then beyond that, it's like I said, that's something we're going to hit hard in the storm chasing process specific content that we have is the safety portion and respecting those folks. But yeah, like you said, every time we go out, there's always an interaction with a local. I feel like, and they're always like, "Hey, should I be worried? What's going on? I got to take my kids to X city. There's a storm coming. What do I do?" And we're like, and we have the onus on us to give them accurate information and to let them, be able to go about their daily lives when this active weather's ongoing. So, no, that's a big thing we're going to focus on for sure.
So I love this, and I'm very excited to get into your curriculum and just kind of go through everything because I have only chased a handful of times and only saw a supercell once. I've never seen a tornado before. As a tornado talk lady, I would like to see a tornado, of course, in the middle of a field, and all that. I just got off of a Zoom call a couple of days ago with Nelson Tucker, who's been with Tornado Talk for a while. He's the founder of the Otis Project, and it was amazing to see and to listen to some of his chase experiences. And he's still a student at Millersville, but he made all of the calls of when they go out. And so one thing that really resonated with me, and kind of piggybacking off what Kim said, is the fact that going and forecasting and looking at all of the environment and trying to make those decisions has made him a better forecaster, and to be able to kind of pick and choose, when should they go out. And the other thing that resonated with some things that he shared, but also what I've always felt, is that you shouldn't chase by yourself. And so I wanted to get your guys' opinion on that because they go out with, it's he and his brother, and then another engineer who go out with the drones, but then they have Eric Fox, who is the seasoned storm chaser that kind of leads the team. I would never want to chase by myself. I think, though, going through your curriculum and going through things would help if I, by chance, find myself, the wrong place at the wrong time and I need to navigate myself around. If I'm in Oklahoma City and I'm not with Kim, or whatever. But what do you guys think about? Because I think there are people that do go out solo chasing. What is your recommendations there, and what have you on that?
There are a lot of folks that go out solo, myself included. But that just takes an extra level of safety and protocols that you have to have in place for that. There's so many distractions with storm chasing. You're trying to look at radar. You're trying to look at Google Maps to find the roads. You're looking at the sky. You're looking, at where you need to be with the storm. All of those in one type of situation, and you have to drive. You're focusing on the road, so it's very, very, very difficult to chase solo. And there are benefits to storm chasing solo for sure. It's cool to just get out there on your own and kind of just relieve your stress and watch a storm out there in front of you by yourself out in the middle of nowhere. But I always recommend that someone, especially if you're new at this or you're just a couple years in, always try to go with somebody. So that way you have one person who can focus on the navigation and the driving, and one person who can focus on the storms. You're both going to be at the same place. You're both going to see the same stuff, but safety is always number one. And if you're trying to juggle all those things, looking at your phone, looking at the sky, looking at the road, it's going to end badly. Even if you think you can do it, it's going to end badly at some point. So I always recommend for folks to chase with at least another person who who is very knowledgeable about the weather, or somebody, if you're knowledgeable about the weather, somebody who can focus on the road solely. So yeah.
One thing I've seen the younger generation do a lot of, which I think is pretty neat, is they'll have all of their different Discord servers or their group chats, and even if they're in the car physically alone, they're still on the phone with somebody, or they're in a voice chat with a group of people who can actually feed them that real-time weather information. In fact, for as much crap as a lot of the weather weenies get on places like Twitter, I think one of the really cool innovations that I've seen come out of it is they all start their little, I don't know if clan would be the right word, but they all start their little storm chasing groups, and then they got to figure out who is the head honcho and who's the media person, and it's actually really adorable. And I've noticed that they will work together on severe weather days, sometimes to the community's chagrin, because they're trying to, quarrel with National Weather Service accounts in their replies and places like that, like, why didn't you warn this storm and stuff like that. But I think it's really cool, and I think it actually is something that a lot of people could benefit from. If you do have to go out there alone, maybe find somebody who on Twitter or in your personal life to hop on the phone with you, that you can use voice dial while you're driving when you have your GPS set, and say, hey, I'm still heading to this location. How's everything look on radar? Should I turn around and go a different direction, and that sort of thing? And I kind of find that to be a pretty solid way to sort of bridge the two. If you don't have anyone that can go out with you, you can still find ways to make storm chasing more safe.
So Gabe, we had Evan Freiberger on last weekend. Of course, he's one of the YouTube meteorologists, and he said now there's sort of these monopolies setting up where, the bigger YouTube meteorologists are beginning to pay really attractive amounts of money to some chasers, and it's getting harder for some of the smaller YouTubers to pay those sort of rates. And so they see this consolidation. The chasers are making lots of money. I see that as opportunity for lots of other chasers, at the risk of there being more chaser convergence. But do you see this as being a rising tide that lifts all boats economically for chasers? Or what's your stance on the economics of all this?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We're in a day and age where YouTube severe weather coverage and stuff like that, as good as some of the the TV severe weather coverage is, YouTube seems to be, especially with the younger generation, that's kind of the way to go. So you often have a more eyeballs on a YouTube stream from, say, Ryan Hall, than you might have on a local channel, which, whether that's right or not is up for debate, but that's definitely where we're going. So, I agree. I think it's definitely an opportunity for folks to economically benefit from this. It's always been difficult to make a full living from storm chasing. I think it is getting a little bit easier to do that, especially with YouTube and ad revenue. It's you can any Joe Schmo can go out there with a camera and a car and live stream to YouTube if you have internet. So anybody can do it, but you have to be good at it, and that's where knowing your meteorology and knowing how to chase safely comes into the equation. And these folks that are these big YouTube channels that are hiring these chasers, that's going to be something they're going to have to watch down the road. Are chasers, respectful of everybody else? Are they, do they have a track record of getting into a little bit of drama here and there as far as their behavior out on the road? So that's a big part of it. So that's where these chasers hopefully will start honing their skills and becoming safer and becoming more knowledgeable about the weather. As long as they can do that, I think it's a great avenue for folks now. But it's like I said, it's a competition these days to get the best shot and whatnot. And I think it's a double-edged sword. It's definitely going to fuel more of that, but it is definitely an opportunity for folks who enjoy storm chasing and are good at it to maybe now make a living with actually storm chasing full time.
And I've got a hot take for everyone. So I think the current state of storm chasing live streaming is incredibly boring. I think that it's accomplishing what it needs to accomplish from a safety standpoint, which is having eyes in the field on what is happening in real time. So in that respect, I think it's great. But I think in terms of an actual product, entertainment wise, mixed with education and the way it's presented to the public, it is severely lacking. So I'm going to give a little teaser and say, just stay tuned to Stormchaser Coaching next spring. We got y'all covered.
Hey, we did have a question from the YouTube chat. Somebody wanted a discussion about your thoughts on the Oklahoma Storm Chaser license legislation that was allowed to die, or any other licensing mechanism for storm chasers.
Interesting topic. I know it created a lot of hubbub when it was going through its paces. I was not a fan of it. I don't. I think there can someday maybe be a place for it, but the way they had it written out, and the way it was worded was very poor. You were giving these media chasers, who, I won't name names, but some of them have had some sketchy pasts as far as behavior on the road. You were giving them extra privileges that these emergency managers can have, so they can use high speed when it's necessary, and they can bypass roadblocks. It was dicey. So I think it was a very poor attempt to license storm chasing, and I think it was a little bit misunderstood in that you had to have a license to chase in Oklahoma. Anyone who wanted to chase in Oklahoma had to have a license, and that wasn't true. But I think it was poorly worded, and I'm glad it was allowed to kind of be shelved for the time being. And, it's a tough question. I know it's come up periodically in the past few decades of, should we regulate storm chasing? And I think it's a tough thing to do. I think there's a lot of ways around it. If someone's going to say you have to have a license to storm chase, you could definitely, there's a lot of ways to go around that. And there's not many ways to enforce it. So I'm not a fan of storm chasing legislation. I do, however, think that I wish there was a way that storm chasers these days could have to, have some type of safety training or safety course, or have some level of knowledge to go out there and chase, because there's a lot of people out there maybe who should do a little more practice before they go out there. So it's always a touchy subject with storm chasers, but I definitely wasn't a fan of the Oklahoma legislation for sure.
Could you go into that? I hadn't heard about that. Was that something like safety concerns, traffic congestion, or what was the thought behind the license?
So I might ruffle some feathers here, but I think it was a financial decision, because these news stations were going to have to pay for the license for their chasers, a certain fee to the Oklahoma Department of whatever it was. They were going to pay the Oklahoma government to have those licenses. But I don't think it was not aimed necessarily at the general storm chasing public. You didn't have to have a license to chase in Oklahoma. That was not the point of the bill. It was just that these media chasers would be able to have those extra privileges if they were to obtain the license. So I think it was financial at the end of the day, but that's up for debate, I guess.
Troy here.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to really screw something up, let the politicians get a hold of it. They could screw up a rock fight, and it doesn't matter. They screwed up to some degree the response in Texas that we've seen down here since. That got to be more of a show about, hey, I'm a politician, I'm here now, rather than it did about the people that were affected in Kerrville. Let politicians get a hold of something, and they can screw it up. You can. That's my quote for the night.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with that. And, Oklahoma has had some dicey past with some politicians there, some legislators doing some interesting stuff. And this was kind of the latest in that. So, hopefully that legislation doesn't come around again, but I'm sure it'll get brought up at some point in the future.
So Trey, talk about the role of drones and the Chaser toolkit and how you incorporate them into the training process.
Yeah, so I'm not someone who has a drone. I do have friends who have drones. That is certainly something that has come into the forefront in the past few years. especially if you're chasing in an area that is very tree lined, like you guys know well, Alabama, Mississippi down there, very difficult to chase down there. Drones have come in handy. I've chased with friends who have had drones down there, and it's a good way to see what's going on with the storm if you can't visually see it because of trees or whatnot. So it's definitely something that's coming to the forefront. We haven't had any specific content on drone usage yet, but it's definitely something we plan to cover. Anything in the storm chasing umbrella, we plan to cover, and drones is certainly going to be one of them. But it's not something that I have used myself. But I know it's definitely very popular these days. With Project Otis now too, you can get drones inside tornadoes, which maybe a year or two ago I didn't know that was even possible. So yeah, it's definitely something we'll look at going forward.
And with your experience in advanced radar systems, how do you put radar interpretation into your training?
So we have the very first module we released was a radar for storm chasing module, radar foundations. That was basically 2+ hours of content, 9 episodes that I did myself, and we went through the basics of what a radar is, not going deep into electromagnetic whatever with sine waves and stuff with the radar, but just basics, how it works. It sends out a pulse and the energy comes back, and then you got your different products from that. And then we went into what features can you look for on radar prior to and during storm initiation. How can you tell which storm to maybe target based on certain products like echo tops and whatnot. Then we went into all of the signatures for your major hazards: tornado signatures, large hail signatures, damaging straight line wind signatures. We did multiple episodes on those, going through every possible signature you can see: tornado debris signatures, tornado vortex signatures, how to possibly estimate tornado intensity from the environment, from knowledge of the environment, and from radar signatures, stuff like that. And then stuff like storm interactions, all of the new research from Cameron Nixon and folks of his and some of his colleagues doing the storm interactions. It's very radar based, and so that's stuff that can really help you when you're out in the field, saying, "Hey, this storm has a nudger in its southwest flank. Maybe we should target that storm instead of this one we're on." So that one was the very first module we put out, because radar is one of the most important tools that you can have out in the field. So we wanted to get that one done early. And we'll definitely have more radar stuff in the future.
Awesome. And Gabriel, talk for a minute about your membership model and how that works and what's behind that. So, because I've got to sign up for this when I get some free time here.
Well, Bill, we'll definitely be giving it to you for free, so don't worry about that. But
please, I'm not going to let you do that. You guys have worked hard on this thing, and these things don't come for free. So, don't need any freebies for sure. You guys, I want to support what you guys are doing. This is awesome.
So the membership is $19 per month, and that of course includes all of the content that is already in there, and then we release one new training module, one new Chase and Explain episode, and one Q&A session each month. We also have something starting next month that we're calling our core concepts. We realized that there was a need in between like the training module style stuff and the Q&A session where people can ask questions about specific topics. And so we're going to be doing a deep dive, 15 to 20 minutes, completely animated, explaining different concepts that some people might be familiar with already, like 0 to 3 kilometer CAPE, 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative felicity, all the usual suspects, how they actually tie into storm chasing, what they're all about, how they get used incorrectly. And so we think that, those 4 pieces of content each month, the training modules, which are usually between an hour and a half and 2 hours long, Chase and Explain episode, Q&A session, and a different core concept each month. We think it's a heck of a deal for $19 a month. And like I mentioned earlier, use promo code BRAINS at checkout, and anybody listening now will get 50% off their first month.
All right. So I have one last question for you guys. I know that Span is waiting in the wings to take us home with the really tough questions here. But, I'll be the warm-up act. It's been really wonderful to have you both, by the way. This has been so good. And I'm wondering what you guys think is the future of chasing. what would you like to see it evolve into? And I think if I could guess, part of the reason that you're doing what you're doing is motivated by trying to keep it from turning into something that's a mess. I think we can all see ways that it turns into a mess. You're trying to give people tools. What are you hoping that it evolves into in the future, especially guided by your work?
Yeah, it's definitely slowly dribbling into the mess category, I think, today. With like I said, it seems like every storm chase, there's some type of drama out there with somebody driving irresponsibly or something like that. So we want to. The whole driving force behind Stormchaser Coaching was to create a platform where folks can, who maybe have not had the experience with maybe going to college and learning severe weather forecasting stuff, or who just are really interested in the nerdy stuff about severe weather forecasting and storm chasing strategy. Having a platform where they can go on, learn about the weather, learn how to storm chase safely, and I think it's a good baseline to start off with for anyone who's getting into chasing. I would hope that every new chaser would at least have some interest in doing this kind of stuff, to making sure you're ready to do that. You know, if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you don't just go to Mount Everest and start climbing Mount Everest your first time. You start small and then you work your way up. Same thing with storm chasing. If you're going to try to go out there with very little knowledge and very little regard for safety, it's going to end badly. Even if you do have some successful chases, it's going to end badly at some point. So, hopefully, Storm Chaser Coaching can be a platform where people can visit before they go out, and be able to get the basics from how to forecast, how to target, and then how to chase safely. And then the future of chasing, it's very difficult to say. Hopefully safety, it remains the forefront. Hopefully it becomes even more of a priority for folks out there. But we'll see. Hopefully we can get to a point where models are good enough where we can say, hey, we need to be in this city. That's where a tornado is going to happen at this time of day. It would kind of take the fun out of storm chasing, I must say. But hopefully that is going to be a point where we can be not just for chasing, but for, public safety and getting the message out there for storms ahead of time. So we'll see. I'm excited to see where storm chasing is in 10, 15 years.
All right, guys. So here's the deal. I do a lot of these public events. And at these public events, a lot of times a high school kid, 16, 17 years old, they'll come up and, hey, man, I want to be a storm chaser. So, and I think they're sincere. So what do you tell a 17-year-old kid that wants to be a storm chaser? What do you tell them? Do you encourage them? Do you scare them? What do you do? How do you handle that?
I think you encourage them, but emphasize the safety portion, that you need to know your stuff before you go out there. And I think that's, I would, now that we have this platform, Storm Chaser Coaching, it's a tool that they can use to be safe and have safety at the forefront and have the knowledge at the forefront before they go out there. But, I always wanted to storm chase. I watched Storm Chasers on Discovery with Reed Timmer. I always wanted to be Reed Timmer when I grew up. And so, I was in their shoes at one point. And, I made sure I was responsible. I read as many journal articles as I could about tornadoes and stuff, watched as many educational videos as I could to learn myself and know what I'm doing before I went out in the field. And started small, started chasing the monsoon. There's a lot more margin for error out here in Arizona with summertime thunderstorms than there are with a big supercell that's producing a big tornado in the plains or in the southeast or wherever. So I would encourage them, but make sure that they know, hey, this isn't a joke. And you need to know your stuff before you go out there, and you need to be safe when you're out there. So
I think it's
the big
also
question
important.
is,
I'm
sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
I was just going to add on and say that I think I would say most underappreciated aspect of storm chasing is that it's expensive. And I think being honest with young people as well and letting them know that very few people are ever going to make a living doing this. And, as unfortunate as it is to say this, a lot of people who try end up with crippling amounts of credit card debt. And I know that's not necessarily a a weather topic in and of itself, but I think being honest with people from the get-go that it might be better to use storm chasing as a hobby, or at least something where maybe once in a while you strike gold because you have great footage, and not necessarily pursuing it as the only thing you're doing, would probably be, I think, the most responsible and the way of helping people actually have a very balanced take on what storm chasing might be able to do for them in the future, how they might be able to enjoy it.
That's exactly what I tell them. I tell, look, guys, go major in meteorology. If you love weather, go to college, get a degree, go to work for the National Weather Service or in the private sector. Do it for fun. Most of the ones I know that storm chase, they lose a pile of money.
Yes.
And there's some illusion that if you go out there to Oklahoma every May, you're going to make piles of cash, and it's a gold mine. What percentage of chasers actually make enough to earn a living? Is their primary job? What percentage?
It's small. It would have to be in, maybe 10% at most, and that might be generous.
I think if you want to be a professional storm chaser or just a professional, we'll say, media personality on YouTube, someone self-made, not someone who's working at a desk at the National Weather Service, it's about personality. Work on developing your personality, your brand, connecting with your audience, being authentic. None of those things, by the way, require you to put yourself into massive amounts of debt or make very risky decisions while you're out in the field. You can do all that stuff while being safe and having a good time and doing it as a hobby. And I think that's probably the more reasonable path in this day and age for somebody who wants to make at least a part-time income out of this versus, like you said, James, just rushing to the land of Oklahoma and praying for the best.
And the other thing I was going to mention, and we have to take a break in a second, but it seems like a lot of the bad actors get all the press, all the publicity, all the attention in the chasing community. And these are the guys, they post pictures on the Twitter of them smoking weed, taking their pants off, peeing on the side of the road, beating some other guy up. And they get into these fights on Twitter, and some of these guys can cuss the horns off a bull. But I find that's most of the chasers that do this, they're not like that. Don't you think they get a bad rap because of these few bad actors that they see on social media?
Yeah, I always say there should be a Real Housewives of Storm Chasing series on Bravo. I think that would do quite well. But yeah, there are a few bad apples, and unfortunately, it does kind of ruin it for the rest of us, I think. I think there's still quite a few people out there who enjoy what we do and are thankful for what storm chasers do, the reporting side of things and whatnot. We hear it every year in just these small towns. We're saying, hey, thanks for doing what you're doing. But unfortunately, the bad apples do kind of give storm chasers a bad rap, unfortunately.
Yeah. And again, all the chasers that I encounter, they're very nice people, and they have a good heart, and they're doing it for the right reason. And I don't see any of this nonsense. It's just these few people that get all the attention. But having said that, we must pause very quickly. We've got to go to Tony Rice, our astronomy expert, and we're going to hear from Jen this week in tornado history. We'll do some email, and we're going to come back with picks of the week and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
The Perseids peak Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning. Now, this is usually one of the better meteor showers with dozens visible each hour in past years. But this year is not likely to be one of those years. The past weekend's full sturgeon moon is still pretty full at around 80% illuminated. That's a lot of natural light pollution that's going to fill the sky and wash out many dimmer meteors. That 80% is actually going to be brighter than even the 100% full moon, because it's occurring near the moon's perigee, our closest point in its orbit around Earth. And our good friend, the inverse square law, says that as it gets closer, it gets even brighter. But still, it's worth going outside and taking a look if you've got clear skies. The key to seeing the most meteors is being under the darkest sky possible, and patience. Even if you're not able to travel to a more rural area, looking to the darkest part of the sky you're under can help. Meteors can appear anywhere. But patience, that's really the best and most forgotten advice. Give your eyes at least 10 to 15 minutes to adjust, and you'll be amazed how much more you'll see. Leave the phone inside, too. Every time you look at your phone, it resets that dark adjustment timer on your eyes. Elsewhere in the sky, while you're out enjoying those meteors, look to the left and down a bit from that nearly full moon, in the southern sky, for Saturn. The ring planet is again showing off its rings, visible with even a small telescope, after they disappeared from view for a while. That's because its orientation had us viewing those rings edge on for the past several months. And if you're up before dawn, and this is the best time to see the most meteors, look low in the east for Jupiter and Venus. They're less than a degree apart from each other. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history. On the evening of August the 11th, 1954, a powerful tornado struck northern Maine, causing considerable damage near the city of Caribou. Tornadoes aren't unheard of in the state, but this one was deadly, the most recent fatal tornado in Maine's history. The F2 twister developed about 5 miles north of Caribou, striking a farm and also debarking trees. Moving to the north and northwest, it hit the Bernie Andrews farm, destroying the barn, badly damaging a potato house, and scattering 3 tons of hay. The tornado continued toward Van Buren Road, where the homes of Catherine Taylor and Paul Martin were severely damaged. The Taylor home was lifted and smashed against the Martin house, destroying the garage. Mrs. Taylor and her daughter Alma were injured. The Martin family were away at church. Power lines were down, communications were disrupted, and nightfall complicated rescue efforts. Mrs. Taylor and her daughter were carried to a neighbor's home on makeshift stretchers until help could arrive. Sadly, Catherine Taylor later died at Cary Memorial Hospital from her injuries, having been thrown 150 feet from the house and pinned under debris. She was remembered as a devoted mother and grandmother, survived by her daughter and 2 grandchildren.
Hey, just maybe, there's a little activity in the email inbox.
It has been busy in the email, and we're going to get through just a couple of them tonight. First of all, Rod wrote, and he was traveling through Alabama, and he went to Jim's Barbecue because James Spann told him to.
Yes.
And because
Yes.
because James is told everyone we need to go to Jim's Barbecue. I am going to Jim's Barbecue in September. I'm telling you right now. I cannot wait. So
You
thank
tell
you,
Jeanette,
Rod.
you know me. She'll take care of you.
Awesome. Absolutely. So thank you, Rod, for that. And also, we've received some emails. We got one from Bama Roll Tide, who just said a big thank you to us for the show, and then to James, and was really excited about the Alabama Weather Network launch. So thank you for that. I'm going to try to see if I can make this a succinct. I'm going to try to analyze this email here. It's about official low and high temperatures, and wanted James Aladot and also John Gordon to kind of weigh in on this one. But it's an interesting question that came in from Randy about the official temperature on August 7th in Denver failed to drop below 74 degrees on a day for the first time since 1881. And that's what the National Weather Service reported. And then he gave us a list of all the different readings from that day that of 73 degrees. And it would appear that it was 73 and not 74. So does anyone have a possible explanation of how the official low was reported as 74 degrees given all of the 70-degree readings? How do they come up with those numbers? And so hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, the 5-minute obs, the ASOS sends the data out in Celsius. The 5-minute obs are rounded Celsius from whole and tenths up to the nearest degree Celsius, then converted to Fahrenheit. The official obs every hour are Celsius and tenth converted to Fahrenheit and tenth. That's rounded to the nearest degree Fahrenheit. So the 5-minute obs will not show temperatures like 74 or 98, but they are not official. They are for guidance only, apparently. We keep having that discussion, and I have to keep remembering what the order of rounding is in that. And I don't know why it's that way, and I think Troy does, and he's just not saying.
No, I'm just telling you, why in the hell did we ever come up and release these 5-minute obs? That's the question. And besides, let me rephrase that a little bit. Why in the hell did we put out those 5-minute obs without notifying the user base that would not determine? You have to basically wait for the DSM, which is a product I'm sure not many people have seen, but the DSMs come off the ASOSs, the FAA and the NWS ASOSs, mostly at 4, I think limit of 4 times a day. It's kind of a building block, I'm told, for the CLIs, the climate messages, the CF6s and things like this. But we had to release the 5-minute obs, and folks, they frankly don't count because there is the rounding can go higher or whatever, but that's what everybody sees, and then you turn around and see a climate sheet for the day and it doesn't match up. To me, it's unbelievable that we would do stupid crap like this to ourselves. This self-inflicted injury by the Weather Service and the FAA, and it didn't have to end up this way, and it's silly crap.
So
Wait, there's
James
self-inflicted injuries in that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, James' answer was exactly right.
Yep.
And Howie Bluestein would not like this. Not like this at all. Howie is against this.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, guys, for that. And then another topic we want to explore here. This email came in from James, and it was a recent article that came out, and there was a recent event where a meteorologist in Minnesota began a portion of his live severe coverage texting his wife to get her and their baby to shelter before the storm hit, and then he was criticized for doing that. Apparently, at least one member of the public said it was unprofessional. And what do you thought we just explore that topic? Why would I don't think that's unprofessional, in my opinion. I think it was human. Why wouldn't he do that? So, what do you guys think?
Well, I did that one time, and nobody fussed at me. I mean, what's the problem? I mean, I would assume he stayed at his post, stayed locked into the situation, communicated the nature of the warning. Why would you be mad at this guy? That's what people do. Come on.
Because we got to
We're
find
looking for
something
a
to get
reason to
mad
be
about.
mad.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
No, I've sent
So
it twice. I've sent station employees to the basement. I've even said this warning needs you to my own mother. So nobody complained about that. Now, that said, when I asked her afterwards, well, did you go take cover when I said that? Well, no, I was waiting and looking out the window.
Oh no.
What do you do?
So three different cities I worked in: Springfield, Nashville, Huntsville. I told them to call everybody, call your wife, call your husband now. Everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Nick Jansen is one who did this in Minnesota. We support you. Absolutely nothing wrong with what you did. It's ridiculous. And again, it is, people want to complain because that's what we do now. We just complain about whatever.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. So, and then the last question came from our friend James Lewis. And I don't know anything about this, but he goes, do any of you know anything about churn? Did you guys know about this? Because I was looking at some old hurricane reports and they kept mentioning churn stations. Is that still around? And also, what's everyone's take on how far out you can be before confident about a storm? So he was asking a separate question about Aaron out in the Atlantic. But do you all know about churn? I know about churning butter. That's how I don't know anything about churn.
Is it referring to churn like the mixing of the Gulf, like the waters of the Gulf? So you've got like the churn of the Gulf, where the layer of specifically hot water on the top surface, and you mix it out. There's discussion about churn when hurricanes pass over a surface, and like so it's sort of worked over the same way that a boundary layer may be worked over in severe weather when there's multiple lines of storms. I wish Neil was here. This is a total Neil question. That's my guess. That is my best reasoned guess. It's something to do with that. But we are missing our tropical correspondent.
We are, yeah. He said mentioning churn stations, and it was all capitalized, CHURN and capitalized. So I don't know. Maybe he can, James, if you're listening, write us back and maybe show us an example of what you're talking about. That would be awesome. And does anybody want to talk about Aaron real quick? We do need Neil back on here to talk because we always threw the tropics at him. But anybody have any comments on Aaron and the models and looking at that?
By the way, I was looking up churn station, and all I see is ice cream brands here. So.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. I like that.
That's good.
It's apparently a brand of ice cream, so
yeah.
we'll keep working on that.
That's right. Yeah. Of course, we'll watch.
I'll say this about it, Aaron. Let me say this: stop being irresponsible. All you nitwits on the internet, stop being irresponsible. That's what we need to say. For God's sakes, we're talking about something way out in Star Trek land. Control yourself and stop putting out misinformation.
John
There you
Gordon
go.
has spoken. There you go. Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
Oh, I like that.
Go ahead,
I
Troy.
do see something that IA is telling me, not that it is the king of all things, but it's some referred to as a cooperative hurricane reporting network, a network established after the 1954 Atlantic hurricane season to improve hurricane forecasting along the U.S. coast. It involves supplying anemometers and barometers to members of the public, ensuring that no section of the Atlantic or Gulf Coast longer than 25 miles was left uncovered.
Wow,
Oh.
that's great information, Troy.
That's
You'll
really
learn a lot
good.
on this show.
Yep.
You don't
That's
get this
right.
on the other shows, only this one.
Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
IA though, so who knows?
Yeah, tomorrow's the anniversary of Hurricane Connie in 1955, which produced a lot of heavy rain in the mid-Atlantic, but was the precursor for Diane, which followed a few days later.
Wow.
And you know what? They launch from the churn stations, don't you?
Oh.
All right.
Oh boy.
I think Aaron's out to see it. It just seems like the out. But yeah, I see, like John says, I see on Facebook and X, Category 6 monster hurricane to strike Miami
Lord.
in
Oh,
7
Lord.
days. Evacuate now. Evacuate now.
Yeah, it's awful.
Harp is steering
I
the
like-
hurricane in this direction.
I like what you call him, James, the fantasy hurricane of the day.
That's very good. Thank you all for writing. Email at weatherbrains.com. Please send your show suggestions and questions to us, and we'll get more rants from John Gordon and James Spann right to you. And Troy, of course, who will always have something to say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's do picks of the week. Picks of the week. Troy, you're up. Go.
I asked to be first tonight because we haven't said much about this, and my colleagues will probably bring up other things regarding this. But today, the 11th day of August, 2025, is really going to end up being a historic day in a sense. And I want to commend James Spann, Bill, and all of his colleagues with the advent of the Alabama Weather Network. I will tell you, this is amazing what they have done, Bill and James and his colleagues that are working on this. All the people in Alabama, I've been so impressed by what I've seen. All I can say is, James, Bill, love y'all and all the people, and you've done an amazing job. Congratulations to you from the rest of the brains here.
Well, you're very kind. I've done very little work. It's all Bill Murray and some of the other colleagues in there, but it's something I've wanted to do. And again, like we talked about in the pre-show, dreams come true if you work hard,
Yep.
have a vision, surround yourself with the right people. Good things happen. So we're very excited, and hopefully we can build a model for the next generation, be part of this process of building a model where these kids that want to come out of college, that want to do what I've done for 47 years, will give them hope in a future. So thank you. You're very kind. All right. James Adelot's got to do Fox 23 News at 9. So let's get him in. James?
Yeah, I got really cool heat burst pictures. One from Meteogram from Beaver, Oklahoma, just after midnight Friday night, shot up to past 100 degrees. And just over the state line in Meade, Kansas, they shot up to 100 degrees and the humidity dropped to 6%.
And what was that wind gust, James, that I also saw?
72? I
Yeah.
think 72.
Yeah, that'd be it. I figured that's the end of the world. So, yeah,
It might still be.
in the middle of the night. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some
You find
JB Elliott
yourself in-
stuff there.
Beaver, Oklahoma on a Friday night at 12:30. It might be.
Move on.
All right, Kim, let's get this back on track here. What's your pick of the week?
Sorry, I'm gonna need a second. A lot of hot air up there in Beaver. Okay, so back on track. My pick of the week is an article from Scientific American that is talking about our meteorologist in Congress, Representative Eric Sorensen, from Northern Illinois, and he has been doing a lot, both to just sort of generally speak out about the nature of all of our different observation systems, all the technical undergirding of our scientific enterprise, but also the importance of forecasting generally and supporting the Weather Service. He had been the bipartisan co-sponsor of a bill to make weather service employees part of the public safety infrastructure of our country, which now is something the administration has gone and taken the step of doing, which is amazing. That was bipartisan, by the way, with Representative Flood of, I think, Nebraska, which is also amazing. But he's doing a lot, and I think that we're all benefiting from having one of our own in Congress. So great little article talking a little bit about what he's been up to for those who are interested.
And all of these picks will be up on the website weatherbrains.com. John Gordon, give us a pick of the week.
Thank you, Eagle. So today's the anniversary of the Salt Lake City tornado. How many remember that? Raise your hand on WeatherBrains. Salt Lake City. How many people would storm chase in Salt Lake City? But anyway, my pick of the week is related to James Adeldot. So do you know what a heat burst is? Do you have any clue? If you love WeatherBrains, you love weather, there's very little resources on the internet on heat bursts. Albuquerque Weather Service has got a great page. Go to the Albuquerque page and learn about heat bursts there, Eagle.
That's fantastic. And again, our old colleague, J.B. Elliott, who was on this show for years, he loved heat bursts. That was one of his things. All right, so let's go over to Jen for your pick of the week. Jen, go.
Big thank you to Oki James for this pick, which is a very impressive radar of supercells. It was Supercell Fest in Central Inner Mongolia. So that was from today. So it was just very impressive here, at least 4, and some of them had some very strong low-level rotation. So it just shows that storms can happen anywhere, and these were very impressive.
Anywhere. Okay, Trey, we've stalled long enough. We know you got something good for us. Go.
All right, I'm going to do a little self promotion here. Aside from
Yes.
Stormchaser Coaching, I have a YouTube channel called Convective Chronicles. It's basically where kind of the idea for Stormchaser Coaching came about on my side. But I do forecast discussions, in-depth scientific, technical forecast discussions, historical case studies from past events. I've done April 27, 2011, all the events, major events from last year. So if you're interested in kind of the nitty-gritty stuff, not maybe so much getting into storm chasing and the real that kind of side of things, but you were interested in, why did certain events happen like they happened? Why did they maybe underperform? And just forecast discussions for upcoming severe weather events in the U.S. Check out my YouTube channel, Convective Chronicles.
And again, all of this will be up on weatherbrains.com. Gabe, go. Give us something good.
I'm actually going to use this opportunity to heap some praise on Trey. So,
Gabe, you're going robotic.
Oh boy.
We do this a lot. He has a weird little thing with his mic on his computer, and pretty much every one of our discussions, we have this. So I always tell him he's going robotic.
I swear I'm a professional.
Wow.
There we go. There's the lighting's back. The audio sounds good. I'm going to use my opportunity here real quick to heap some praise onto Trey, because that Convective Chronicles YouTube channel that he's talking about, all right, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to work with Trey in the first place. I tried my damnedest at the beginning of this project to get Trey to take his content from Convective Chronicles and sort of meld it all together with what we were doing with Stormchaser Coaching. And he was absolutely having none of it. He wanted to make sure that all of the forecast discussions, the breakdowns and everything stayed free for the public. So that way, if they didn't want to subscribe or anything like that, those resources would be available for people who need them. Obviously, as a person who's business minded, I had to, an eye twitch a little bit as I was listening to him describe it, but I have to say that it is one of the many reasons why I enjoy working with Trey. He has always been about making sure people have access to information so that they can be as educated as possible. And so I will second Trey saying that people should check out the Convective Chronicles YouTube channel, because it is definitely one of the best, if not the best, sources for weather information out there as far as forecast discussions and things like that go from a YouTuber.
Excellent. And one more time, the special offer for WeatherBrains listeners. One more time.
Yeah, so that's promo code BRAINS at the checkout page. So go to stormchasercoaching.com, click the button at the top that says Academy, or if you're on mobile, it's going to be that little menu in the top right-hand corner. Just go ahead and click to purchase it. You'll get 50% off. That's $9.50. You can try it for the first month. I think you'll be hooked once you do, and we hope to see you over there.
Do it. Do it. That's the advice here. So listen, we got to wrap this one up. It's been a great 2-hour show here. For those that are new, we're typically on the air Monday nights at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. You can watch it live, the video version on YouTube, youtube.com/weatherbrains. But we know that most of you listen to the audio podcast. If you watch, listen, whatever, thank you. And if you want to get in touch with us, you know the email address. It is email@weatherbrains.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless. Thanks, everybody. This was a good one.
Guys.
Yeah, thank y'all.
you guys. That was awesome.
Great show.
Yeah.
Outstanding.